Retirement planning tools have some serious flaws. In this video, I'm going to show you 4 of the most common problem areas in a retirement planning tool or retirement calculator. The purpose of using a retirement calculator or retirement planning tool is to help you make better informed decisions so that you can take actions that increase the probability of your success or increase your cash flow and spending flexibility in retirement. And unfortunately, many of these retirement planning tools are simple calculators and are missing elements or have some misleading data that can cause, really catastrophic harm to someone who is planning for their retirement. I see retirement planning tools like a weapon, used with the right training and the right level of practice. It's not a dangerous object, but to the uninitiated and untrained, a retirement planning tool can end up being something that causes them harm. So we're going to go through 4 problem areas in retirement planning tools. The first problem in a retirement planning tool is the fact that it does not show clear prioritization of which action items you should attend to first. And I'm going to show you real-time examples of each of these 4 problems. The second problem is that retirement planning tools will often default to straight line illustrations rather than having some kind of more realistic mimicking real life data, specifically when it comes to income and expenses, as well as investment rates of return. The third problem area is that most retirement planning tools, not all, but many, will use model portfolios or use asset allocation as the primary method of showing a portfolio rate of return in the tool, rather than using the actual investments held within a client or person's portfolio, which means you'll often have discrepancies between what your real-time rates of return are, or even your historic rates of return are, versus what the plan will assume you will have. And then last but not least, financial planning tools rarely incorporate real-time data around spending and expense tracking, which means they're using some kind of an assumption that you plug into the tool, and therefore will often deviate from a person's actual lived spending experience. So we're going to go through all 4 of these scenarios on the screen right here so you can see exactly how these manifest in retirement planning tools and can therefore adjust your course or make proper decisions on your own with this information. So to start off here, this is a screenshot from a hypothetical client. It shows a financial plan probability increase from their base plan, which is here on the right, which shows a 71% probability of success, to a proposed plan, which now shows an 89% probability of success, and a median end-of-life asset increase of around almost $4,800,000. Now, the issue here is that this is cumulative, so it's the sum total of many action items that have been plugged into a financial planning tool. And so this shows the issue that I'm talking about here, which is that it doesn't show a clear prioritization of which action items are most impactful. And you can see right here where I'm highlighting that the differences are cumulative and disguise certain features. Now, if we scroll down and show what the actual impact is of each individual action item recommended within the plan, we get a much better idea of which action items actually have a material impact on the success of the plan, both from a Monte Carlo perspective and from an end-of-life estimate of assets perspective. And now with this information in hand, you can make much clearer decisions about, first, what action items should you attend to priority in chronological order first versus what action items should you maybe defer out. Also, you might want to make certain decisions based on an increased Monte Carlo probability rather than an increased assumption of end-of-life assets. We don't really know that much about how the markets will perform, and end-of-life assets is a very far out deferred kind of experience, but Monte Carlo often tells us more about our spending stability in retirement, and some people may prefer to make decisions through the lens of Monte Carlo. But what you can see here is that when we actually itemize this list into the 6 or 7 individual action items that are components of this plan, some of these have negligible impact, right? Spouse 2's additional work is only 1% increase in Monte Carlo success. And you can see here pre-retirement asset allocation. Changing their asset allocation before retiring also has a much smaller percentage increase of success compared to spouses 1's additional work or to the post-retirement asset allocation. Now, there are reasons for this, and we could go into deeper videos about each of the reasons behind this, but the simple illustration here is you'd make much clearer decisions about what to attack and when if you saw it itemized in such a manner, and financial plans don't do this for us. Now, the second issue in financial planning tools comes in the form of investments. In most financial planning tools, you will end up with what's called a straight line assumption rate of return. This screenshot on the left here is a screenshot of an asset allocation drawn from the financial planning tool, and it shows an annual return here of 7.9%. It's using some kind of asset allocation-based historical data to give us an estimate of what the future return of that portfolio will be. But however, when we actually plug the exact portfolio into Portfolio Visualizer and backtest that individual portfolio, we can see here that this portfolio actually had a 12.89% rate of return over that same estimated time period. Now, the point isn't one portfolio superior than the other. They're actually the same portfolio. The point is just to illustrate that frequently financial planning tools will use asset allocation to provide the assumption or the assumed rate of return rather than using the actual underlying investments held within your personal portfolio. And this can lead to some misleading assumptions. Now, there's a second problem in financial planning tools related to investments, and that's the fact that financial planning tools use what's called straight line assumptions. And this is illustrated here. In the financial planning tool, using that same exact portfolio, the plan would show a 7.9% rate of return at the same rate each year, and I just put in an estimate of 12 years. Every year, it's going to show a 7.9% rate of return in the assumptions part of the plan. The problem is this portfolio has much different actual rates of return. We took 12 years of back testing data, and you can see that there's never a year in which it actually has a 7.9% rate of return. It's actually widely swinging year to year, and this is much more accurate to how real life will transpire. You're much more likely to have completely different rates of return year by year, and if you don't check deeply into the financial planning tool's assumptions, you may miss this discrepancy. Now, you could also look at this and say the average of the actual past 12 years of this portfolio is not going to equal 7.9%, and that is also correct because of what I mentioned above here, which is the fact that the financial planning tool uses asset allocation to produce the rate of return assumption rather than using the actual investment holdings underlying in the portfolio. And the last financial planning tool issue here has to do with expenses. Most financial planning tools, or I think all of them, will require that the person put in a manual entry as an estimate or assumption of their expenses. And you can see that's this left column here. What it does is it asks for an annual estimate of expenses, you plug it in and it divides it by 12 or something like that. And that is a straight line assumption as well. It's a level estimate. The problem is most people's spending behavior does not actually function that way. When you actually use a bookkeeping tool for this same hypothetical person, you'll find that their actual spending varies quite widely, and in some cases can under or over exceed, can exceed or can be less than the actual amount put into the financial planning tool. The problem here is that if we don't reconcile the estimate put into the financial planning tool with someone's actual lived spending amounts, we can end up with huge discrepancies when it comes time to start actually taking distributions from the person's portfolios if they're in retirement, or we can end up with big mistaken assumptions around how much an individual or couple can save leading into retirement, and therefore end up undershooting our asset requirement at the day we retire. So the idea here is just to show that financial planning tools, while a helpful way to aggregate data and give us visualizations of how our potential actions might improve our probability of success, can be useful, they can also be quite damaging if we don't understand some of the problems or things that get smoothed out behind the surfaces, and then also know how to interpret them and take action based on what the misleading elements of the financial planning tool might show. I hope you found this helpful. The point is not to create fear around the use of a financial planning tool. It's still much better to use one than not use one at all. The point is just to understand that there are going to be areas where the tool is not adequate for the job or might need some supplementation, and this is where some experience and finesse can help supplement that. So I hope you can make use of this video. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or just want me to dive deeper into any of the individual components shown in this video, I'd be happy to do so, and you can leave some suggestions in the comments section below. Thank you, as always, for your time and attention. If you'd like more information about any of the different plans or options that we have on our website, you can go to www.thepeakfp.com. You can also schedule a free consultation with our fee-only fiduciary financial planning team there, as well as subscribe to a video series where we give away a 6-video series of our financial planning system, along with free access, to Right Capital, our financial planning tool, so that you can get in there and start to play around and use some of the information that we've been delivering through these different videos. Thank you for your time and attention, and see you in the next video.